Well, good morning, everybody. It's Peter McConville speaking. Once again today I'll be flying solo, I would think, because Matthew has football commitments, or his sons have football commitments which he'd like to be involved in, so quite understandably he will be in absentia today. We'll continue on nonetheless with our usual presentation, and we're going to review a day of racing as we always do. Once again, I will say, because Matthew is not here to curate questions and so on to facilitate the sort of the continuity of the whole thing, if you will, I'll beg your indulgence, and I will call the selections. I will endeavour to elaborate on where I think is necessary about why those selections were made and what priorities were looked at. And if you have any questions about anything that's discussed or queries about the selections on this day, don't hesitate to send me an email or contact Matthew, either or you can hold the questions back until the next webinar in a fortnight, and then I'm sure Matthew will be in attendance, and we can certainly discuss any concerns that you might have. So without further ado, I'm going to get underway, and with selections for the Saturday's racing, the 3rd of April. And we'll start with the very first race of the day, which was SRO1 here. Very first race of the day. We're certainly, so I guess the fact that we're looking at the very first race of the day lends weight to the suggestion or the recommendation that if you're going to trade on any given day, you start right from the very beginning, because very often you can get away to a flying start, build up an early profit to the level that is satisfactory to your needs, and then it's an early exit. So it's always a bit disconcerting if you for whatever reason join the race program after races have been run and find out perhaps that you've missed out on some winning opportunities. So ideally, if you're going to trade on any given day, start at the very start, get things going right at the start of the race program, and then you can exit whenever you choose to do so. So I guess looking at the very first race of the day, we can see that our basic selections would mirror the percentage selections, 50, 70 and 90. But we can also, by looking at the money profile, see that there are certain adjustments that we can make applying allowances. Now, I suppose the first one we would notice is that at the 1 minute interval there is clearly strong money support for runner 3, looking in the brown band, which we always encourage you to do. Strong support for runner 3, competitive support for runner 7 with runner 1. And so these two runners definitely deserve to be included in our first place group, applying the additional allowance. Now we can also apply, as you can see, a percentage allowance for 3rd, because we are holding, or runners down to 7 are holding 88.71%, so that's between 86.5 and 90%. We've got quite a sizable money gap to work to, and you can see that money gap confirms the fact that the money support just drops dramatically away on the lower 4 runners. So I suppose what we're doing when we look at and prioritising the money profile from the top down, we see quite clearly that it's the top 4 runners that are attracting the strong money interest, and the bottom 4 runners are really just making up the numbers in the race, according to the money injection. So we can drop 3rd place back to there, and then that means we're covering the 4 runners, 1st, 2nd and 3rd, giving us 24 combinations. and we get away, we always ideally want to do, to a winning start, and that's the very first race of the day. So great way to kick things off. All right, so make sure that when you get to the 1 minute interval, if you make the money gap selections, to check to see whether allowances can be brought to bear, and the way to do that is to stay in touch with the prevailing money profile, not only at the 1 minute mark but each of the intervals preceding that. If we go to percentage return while we're still on this, you can see that there is a separator defining the top two runners here, but it's smaller, slightly smaller than the money gap in trifecta. So I guess that can act as added confirmation that the additional allowance is worthwhile applying. All right, and also I will qualify that by saying, as I indicated to a client earlier this week, you don't have to apply allowances if you choose not to. You may be well aware of the money profile at the 1 minute, but think to yourself, well, based on what I've seen earlier, I'm going to ignore what I'm seeing at 1 minute and in favour of the basic selections. That's entirely a decision that is up to each and every individual, but it must be made on the basis of comprehensive awareness of what's going on. Okay, going to MRO1 now. Now this is pretty straightforward, I would have thought. Just a basic selection outcome, top three runners for first and second. As we can see, clear domination of money support at the 1 minute mark for those three runners. And this time, even though we have a money gap at number 5 and the money is falling away as we go down further down the field, we can't apply the percentage allowance because the percentage is way too low. So we're obliged to apply the basic money gap selections for third, bring the selections down to runner 8. That gives us a total of 18 combinations and yet another profitable outcome. So by tuning in and getting started right from the word go, it's certainly a case of the early bird catching the worm on this particular day. All right, we go to the next one. Now here, if we go back to the basic selections, we can see that obviously, if we look at the win dividend for the favourite and the associated money gap, you would think megafecta as an option, but of course the pool would rule that out well and truly. But we can make group selections as an alternative option, and well, the only alternative option really as far as selection making is concerned. We could also, for third place, make a money gap allowance stopping at the 90% level to a 1.3 or bigger multiple, and with the money falling away with little or no money action on these lower two runners. And we could, and of course the pool is between $4,000 and $5,000. In fact, it's so close to being $5,000 it's not funny. So a pool allowance would be more than acceptable here. If we go to percentage return, we can see quite clearly that there is a separator at the third runner. But going back to trifecta again, I guess I haven't finished. I should have continued on with the adjustments here. Quite justifiable to consider making the additional allowance in this instance, because once again, and I'll take that out so that you can see it, basic selections would be the top three runners for first and second, but because of the similarity of money here at the 1 minute interval, in fact this runner is attracting more money than runner 4, it would be quite justifiable to augment the basic selections with the inclusion of runner 2 for first and second. Still a trading race, still can make the pool allowance. I mean, more than justifiable, I think, based on what we're seeing. And if we go back to percentage return, you can see that by making the additional allowance, the additional allowance here would be, I guess, confirmed by what we're seeing in percentage return, because we have a separator at this level which is quite a bit bigger than our defining money gap in trifecta. So here we've decided to finally make the additional allowance and add 2 for first and second, and make a money gap allowance to sacrifice those lower 2 runners. All right, moving on now to the next one. We've got a bit of a wait now, but I think some of you would already be becoming aware that you might not even be trading beyond this early stage because of the early profit that was generated. And we'll have a look at the data sheet a little bit later on, just to see what the outcome was. There we go. All right, now here's our first percentage return trading opportunity for the day. As you can see, we're dealing with a weak favourite, number 9, at the top of the field. It's weak because it's holding a percentage less than 25%. We have a money competitive group of runners immediately below it, defined by our separator, that those runners are holding on their own more than the requisite more than the requisite 47.5% of the cumulative money. We can see that number 9 has a positive value in the U diff, and of course no numbers in the WUP column. But so we could happily trade against this favourite because all the basic procedural indicators stack up. But I think in this instance, by looking at the cumulative money profile, we might perhaps consider adding the favourite to our group, simply because of the quite defined disparity in money support between runner 9 and runner 3. Sure, runners 3, 14, 6, 7 and 1 are quite clearly, I guess, the runners that are most money competitive with our favourite, but is the group money competitive enough because of the quite significant reduction in money going from runner 9 to runner 3 over over that 5-minute period? I guess it's either or. If you decided to favour what you're seeing in the cumulative dollars column and add the favourite, then you're going to rule the race out. If you give priority to what you're seeing at the 1-minute mark, you would, I guess, trade against number 9. But once again, you've got to make a judgment call based on total awareness of all the priorities. I would tend to think in this instance we would override the procedural outcome and add the favourite to the group and give priority to the cumulative dollars presentation, and thereby save ourselves what would have been a loss had we continued to trade against runner 9. Okay, we move on to the next one. Now this is just a very simple banker trifecta. As you can see, $1.50 favourite, holding 55%. That's well over more than half of the betting money is being directed at runner 1 in this race. So quite happily we're going to trade banker trifecta, and that means we're going to bring second place down to runner 7, covering the 80% component, and third place down to runner 2. And I think if we go to percentage return, you can see we've got a substantial separator at number 3, which is the counterpart of our defining separator in trifecta. So I would suggest that it would be quite satisfactory to leave second place selections at number 7. However, if you wanted to give, I guess, priority to what you're seeing at the money profile at 1 minute here, you could be justified in thinking, well, you know, the money for these 2 runners is very similar to the money for runner 3, so I'll just ensure myself by bringing the the second place selections down to where I've got 3rd. I guess that's entirely a decision that can be considered. All right, going back to BR07 now. Now here, if I'll just go back to what the program gives us, 14 is our weak favourite, as we can see. The runners that are most money competitive with 14, of course, are runners 5, 3 and 1, defined by a separator, so that's going to be our potential trading group against this weak favourite. But of course we can quite clearly see that that group of 3 runners does not hold more than the requisite 47.5 on its own, and furthermore our favourite has got a negative value in the UDIF column and numbers in the WUP column. So that means that the favourite must be added to our group. We still have a trading race, however, because the return is indicated at greater than 50%, so on we trade. Another percentage return, as you can see, this is one of our old favourites, strong favourite, runner 2, holding more than, well and truly more than the requisite 25% of the money, as indicated down in the guidelines. We have a quite large separator defining the group of 2 runners, considerably bigger than the minimum requirement of 1.7. These 2 runners together are holding more than 47.5% of the cumulative money. Clear-cut dominant cumulative support here, strong money support for those 2 runners here, 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 all the way back almost to the 5 minute, well pretty much all the way back to the 5 minute mark. So I think consistently that the strong money support has been for those 2 runners, and that's the kind of race that I would encourage any new clients to cut their teeth on in terms of placing bets, because the chances of success, it didn't occur in this instance, but the chances of success with a presentation like this are quite, have always been high. So this sort of scenario and percentage return produces quite a good strike rate, normally. Not in this race though. Going to the next one, here's another one that's even a better example of what we're talking about. Another very strong favourite. You know, clearly these 2 runners at the top are the dominant ones in the betting, this time holding more than, between them holding more than the half the betting money. You can see very clear dominant cumulative support here, very strong support here for at the 1 minute interval, 2 minute interval, 3 minute interval, 4 minute interval, all the way back. So this is the sort of thing that you really definitely want to be ready to place bets on. The sort of situation, selection outcome is one that will be very predictably profitable in a large number of, or a large percentage of times, and that's what's occurred here. Another one, very similar, same sort of thing. We're going to cover the top two runners for first, simply because of all of the same reasons. Holding more than 47.5, clear-cut money separation, money separator definition. More than 1.7 the minimum. Remember, if you're going to include the favourite and one other runner, the minimum separator requirement is 1.7 and bigger. So any other groups can be defined by separators of 1.5 or bigger, but if you're going to select the favourite and one other runner, you must increase the minimum separator size to 1.7. So if the separator, even if the money looks solid, if the separator is not 1.7 or bigger, then it's not valid to trade with the top two or the two runners inclusive of the favourite. Okay, going to the next trading race in trifecta. This is pretty straightforward. 50% to a money gap for first, down to runner 4 for second place, and down to runner 7 for third, making a small percentage allowance, simply because the money sort of quite obviously starts to reduce into the lower field. So that's what we're looking for. Looking at the money profile, we're quite entitled to say, well, even though the basic selections for third would have to come down to runner 8, I'm entitled to sacrifice some of those non-achieving runners in the lower field by applying the percentage allowance in a valid way. If the money didn't fall away in the lower field and you had sort of a similarity of money support going further down, well then that would override the application of the allowance. But here the allowance can be brought to bear quite satisfactorily to give us a trading outcome of 32 combinations. We go to the next one, another banker trifecta. As you can see, this is pretty straightforward. We're going to single out number 3, this time a 1.7 or $1.70 favourite. Now remember that, so I will draw your attention to this because I do get asked this question on quite a few occasions. We're prepared to single out the favourite alone to come first, even though it's not holding 50% or more of the money, because with banker trifecta, the key indicator is the win dividend size, and the win dividend range that we're looking for with banker is $1.70 back to $1.50. $1.50 to $1.70. Anything less than $1.50, then the race is not going to be potentially profitable to trade in, because the favourite will be too strongly supported. But between $1.50 and $1.70, the likelihood of reasonable profit from a successful banker trifecta is solid. So the key element in banker is the win dividend. Once a win dividend falls to $1.70, we know that runner has got to be holding pretty close to, if not more than, 50% of the betting money. And in anyone's book, that's pretty strong support from the market for one runner in a race. So on the strength of that, we're prepared to take the added risk by singling the favourite out as our first place choice. And finally, on this day, we go to percentage return, and we're going to trade with 13, 8 and 6. If I take the lock off, so we go back to where we started, 13 is a weak favourite, as we can see, but and we have these two runners that are money competitive with that favourite as our potential trading group against the favourite, but obviously we've got to include the favourite to make up the requisite 47.5 or more cumulative money support. So therefore the dominant group has got to be 13, 8 and 6, which will be our trading group. You can see quite clearly the money supports that in the cumulative money here, the money at the 1 minute mark, the money back here at 2 minutes, 3 minutes and so on. So there's a trading race with a weak favourite included in the group of 3 to finalise our trading activities on this particular day. All right, now let's go to the data sheet and we'll just do a little bit of, spend a bit of time just doing an analysis here. As I said, by starting from the very first race of the day on this Saturday, you can see that a pretty handsome profit has been built up early. I mean, by the third race, we're up to, I mean, I know this is with $400 betting amounts, but you can do the math and work out what the profit would be with pro rata profit would be with $200 betting amounts. But with a $400 betting amount, we're up to $879.70 in clear profit. Now, I would think, given that you've had two very strong successes at this early stage that have generated that level of profit, it would be worth giving serious consideration to profit taking at this point. Because that's the key element here. As you can see, by pushing the envelope further, we've incurred a loss on the next trading opportunity, which presented quite strongly, if we might remember rightly, and now we're back to almost half the profit that we had at this stage. So that means that we're faced with a bit of a dilemma. Do we continue on to try and rebuild the profit, or do we cut our losses and leave it somewhat disillusioned, given that we had that level of profit so early on? As you can see, by trading further on, you would have reduced the profit even further. Now, I know that we've restored our profitability at this level, and we've maintained it and built on it somewhat. But I mean, certainly if you got to this point, if you'd sort of traded on beyond this point and reduced your profit, and then were prepared to keep trading to see if you can rebuild the profit, certainly by at this stage you'd be obviously seriously considering taking the profit and leaving. And that's the key to this. It's all about not pushing the envelope too far. Having said that, I'm a great believer in not being picking a level of ideal profit that's not too low, but not too ambitious. You've got to consider, what am I trading with? How much money am I trading with? And given that I'm going to any profit that I make is profit I can put in my pocket, so it's unencumbered profit, what would be a level of profit that I would consider to be too good to sacrifice? And surely by doing that, then once that level of profit is approached or met or exceeded to some degree, that's the automatic time to decide to take the profit and enjoy the benefits of it. Don't be lulled into thinking like punters thinking, punters processes of thought, that if you can make a certain level of profit early on, you most certainly can double it later on in the day. That is a very, very dangerous process of thought, and really it's subjective thinking that has no place in the successful use of this software. So you've got to be very objective, you've got to be very disciplined and strong-willed. And once you reach a level of profit such as this level here, that you consider to be too good to sacrifice back to the TAB, that's the time to exit. Now this would be probably an ideal day, because you've started trading, let's see, we'll just get out of the data sheet. You've started trading, let's go back here. The first race was at 11:55, just before 12 noon, and by 12:10 you've, I think it was 12:10, what was the race? Yes, by 12:10, and the first race at Caulfield, you're up to the $879.70 profit. That's $879.70 clear profit made in that space of time, which is 15 minutes, a quarter of an hour. Now that's pretty good hourly, pretty astronomical hourly rate when you work it out. That's probably what I'd call barristers' rates, but they have to do a damn side more work than that to get it. So, you know, and that was achieved in 2 betting opportunities that were quite clearly demonstrated by having a sound knowledge of the priorities that we use. So if you look at it from that perspective, by being objective and being responsible unto yourself and trading consistently in the correct fashion, you can be very profitable and enjoy the benefits of that profit. So folks, I realise this is an abbreviated or an abridged version of our normal webinars, because Matthew's not here to curate questions and sort of provide some input, but I hope, as I said, you will understand that it's a little bit difficult when I'm here on my own to field questions and do the selections and maintain the continuity that is necessary. So I hope that presentation has been of benefit to you today. If you have any questions, as I said, don't hesitate to raise them with me by email, peter@iqpro.com.au, or let Matthew know, or alternatively carry them over until next we meet in a fortnight's time, and when Matthew will be back and we can have the discussion then. So thanks very much for your attendance today. Enjoy the weekend ahead, and we'll be joining each other again in a fortnight's time. So until then, it's bye from me. Bye now.